Welcome to the Trackpads podcast, where history, leadership, and heroism come alive. Today's episode explores the turning point at Midway, a powerful story of courage and perseverance. The new book, Uncommon Valor, Medal of Honor Stories from the Battle of Iwo Jima, is now available in Kindle, paperback, and a collectible hardcover edition. It's the first in a 10-part series exploring the incredible stories of Medal of Honor recipients from World War II. Meticulously researched and vividly told, Uncommon Valor takes readers deep into the brutal battle for Iwo Jima, honoring the Marines whose acts of heroism changed history. From the chaos of the beach landings to the iconic flag raising atop Mount Suribachi, this book captures the grit, sacrifice, and spirit of America's highest military honor. To learn more or grab your copy, visit militaryauthor.me, and please follow Jason on Amazon to be informed of future releases. The Battle of Midway, fought from June 3rd to June 7th, 1942, remains one of the most pivotal naval confrontations in modern military history. Stemming directly from Japan's aggressive expansion following their devastating strike on Pearl Harbor, this clash involved complex strategic maneuvers, advanced code-breaking efforts, and intense air-sea combat. Japan, under Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, aimed to decisively eliminate the United States Pacific Fleet through a meticulously planned surprise attack centered around Midway Atoll. However, American intelligence breakthroughs provided a critical advantage, allowing Admiral Chester Nimitz to set an ambush that would fundamentally alter the course of the war. This dramatic confrontation was defined by moments of extraordinary courage, tragic sacrifice, and tactical brilliance, ultimately proving the supremacy of aircraft carrier-based warfare over traditional battleship doctrine. Within mere days, the United States Navy delivered a crippling blow to Japan, sinking 4 Japanese carriers and significantly weakening their naval air power. The American victory at Midway not only halted Japan's relentless Pacific expansion, but also shifted the strategic initiative decisively toward the Allies, paving the way for future offensives and permanently reshaping naval warfare doctrine. The Battle of Midway's enduring legacy continues to exemplify the decisive role intelligence, innovation, and bravery play in determining the outcomes of history's most consequential military engagements. Strategic context and prelude to the battle. The attack on Pearl Harbor dramatically shifted the balance of power in the Pacific, catapulting Japan into a rapid and aggressive expansion. After their devastating surprise assault, the Japanese military swept through the region, capturing strategically critical territories like the Philippines, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Each of these conquests served to fortify Japan's defensive perimeter, enabling further dominance of vital trade routes and key strategic positions. Japan's broader strategy hinged on swiftly eliminating the American naval presence, hoping the United States would seek a peace agreement under the weight of military setback. A critical aspect of this strategy was to extend their dominance eastward, culminating in an ambitious plan to seize Midway Atoll, a strategic outpost within striking distance of Hawaii and ultimately the United States West Coast. Central to Japan's audacious plan was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the Pearl Harbor attack and one of Japan's most respected naval strategists. Yamamoto understood that maintaining dominance over the vast Pacific Ocean required decisive actions to eliminate the threat posed by the surviving American fleet. His strategy revolved around setting an elaborate trap to lure the United States Pacific Fleet into battle under unfavorable circumstances. To mask the true objective, Yamamoto ordered a diversionary attack against the Aleutian Islands, creating confusion and dispersing American defenses. Simultaneously, he dispatched a formidable fleet comprising 4 aircraft carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, aiming to surprise and decisively defeat the United States naval forces near Midway. Unknown to the Japanese, the United States Navy held a critical and decisive advantage: advanced code-breaking capabilities. American cryptologists, working tirelessly at Station Haipo in Hawaii, had successfully deciphered portions of the Japanese naval communication code known as JN-25. Utilizing deceptive intelligence tactics, the United States confirmed Japan's intention to target Midway specifically, thus eliminating ambiguity around the Japanese strategic goals. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the United States Pacific Fleet, seized this critical intelligence advantage. Nimitz carefully orchestrated an ambush, strategically positioning 3 aircraft carriers, the Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown, in preparation for the anticipated engagement near Midway. When the opposing forces finally faced off, the battle formations revealed stark contrasts between the 2 naval powers. Japan entered the fight boasting overwhelming numbers, fielding 4 fleet carriers supported by battleships, cruisers, and numerous support vessels, intent on overpowering American forces with sheer naval might. In contrast, the American fleet was smaller in number, relying primarily on the strategic positioning of their 3 carriers and utilizing the airstrip at Midway Island to amplify their available air power. American submarines also played a crucial role, positioned to intercept or slow any attempted maneuver by the Japanese surface forces, further complicating Yamamoto's carefully designed attack plan. Despite their numerical inferiority, the United States Navy entered the confrontation bolstered by superior intelligence and strategic foresight, advantages carefully curated by Admiral Nimitz and his intelligence team. The Americans' ability to predict and effectively counter the Japanese tactical moves hinged heavily on accurate and timely intelligence, dramatically reshaping what might otherwise have been an insurmountable confrontation. In leveraging these strategic advantages, the United States Navy created a scenario that tilted the scales toward a more evenly balanced engagement. The meticulous preparation by United States forces underscored the significant importance of intelligence in modern naval warfare. Opening moves and Japanese attacks, June 3rd to 4th, 1942. The battle commenced with Japan initiating a diversionary assault against the Aleutian Islands, a sparsely populated area far north of the main theater of operations. This effort was intended to mislead Admiral Nimitz and the United States Pacific Fleet, distracting their attention and resources away from Midway Atoll. However, Admiral Nimitz, privy to Japanese plans through effective intelligence gathering, wisely decided to maintain his focus firmly on Midway. This strategic decision ensured that the diversion failed to achieve its primary objective, drawing the United States carriers away from their key defensive position. Ultimately, Japan's Aleutian attack accomplished minimal strategic value, providing only limited tactical gains and negligible operational impact. In response to the approaching Japanese threat, United States military planners immediately launched preliminary airstrikes from Midway's airfield, hoping to weaken or disrupt the Japanese fleet before it could effectively engage. A fleet of B-17 bombers set off in search of the enemy's carriers, yet despite their formidable payloads, these early bombing missions proved unsuccessful, unable to accurately strike the agile and elusive Japanese warships. Concurrently, the American submarine Nautilus spotted elements of the Japanese fleet, providing critical location intelligence that confirmed the enemy's approach. These initial engagements underscored a harsh reality. Japan's superior naval air power presented a serious challenge, with American pilots quickly realizing their adversaries were more experienced and tactically adept. On the morning of June 4th, Admiral Chuichi Nagumo's carrier-based aircraft initiated their primary strike against Midway Atoll. Japanese pilots bombed and strafed the United States Air Base, inflicting significant damage to runways, hangars, and defensive installations. While these attacks severely compromised Midway's physical infrastructure, they critically failed to neutralize its defensive capabilities. American pilots stationed at Midway bravely mounted immediate counterattacks, launching fighters and dive bombers directly at the Japanese fleet. Although courageous, these desperate sorties were largely ineffective, encountering intense anti-aircraft fire and robust fighter opposition from Japan's highly disciplined Zero pilots. Amid the ongoing chaos and confusion of aerial combat, Admiral Nagumo faced a critical and complex decision regarding subsequent actions. Initially confident that his first strike would decisively cripple Midway, Nagumo quickly recognized that further attacks would be necessary to fully neutralize the island's defenses. Japanese carrier crews thus began rapidly rearming and refueling aircraft for a second strike, exchanging torpedoes and bombs suited for ship attacks for more appropriate ordnance designed to target land installations. This intricate, time-consuming process left the Japanese carriers momentarily exposed, their decks crowded with ordnance and bustling ground crews. As Nagumo wrestled with the tactical implications of launching another strike, alarming reports suddenly reached his bridge. Incoming American aircraft were rapidly approaching his fleet's position. These unexpected sightings threw Nagumo into a state of hesitation and indecision, compounding the vulnerability of the Japanese carriers. With planes prepared, ammunition scattered across the decks, and fighters either grounded or engaged in rearming, the timing could not have been more perilous. Nagumo's hesitation at this crucial juncture would prove to be one of the most consequential decisions in naval warfare, dramatically altering the trajectory of the unfolding battle. Devastating United States carrier strikes on the Japanese fleet, June 4, 1942. The United States Navy's counterattack began with torpedo bombers valiantly launching the initial assault against the formidable Japanese carrier fleet. Tragically, these American aircraft, primarily Douglas TBD Devastators, proved woefully outdated, slow-moving, and highly vulnerable against the agile and deadly Japanese Mitsubishi Zero fighters. In waves of courageous yet futile charges, nearly all the torpedo bombers were mercilessly shot down without landing a single effective hit on the enemy carriers. Although these attacks resulted in catastrophic losses for American squadrons, their bravery served a critical, albeit unintended, tactical purpose. The relentless engagement of the Zero fighters at low altitudes significantly reduced their ability to protect the carriers from other aerial threats. Taking full advantage of this tactical opening, American dive bombers from carriers Enterprise and Yorktown appeared dramatically above the vulnerable Japanese fleet. Diving swiftly and precisely from high altitude, these aircraft caught the Japanese carriers Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu at their most precarious moment, with decks crowded by aircraft, fuel, and ordnance. In a matter of minutes, the dive bombers delivered devastating blows, dropping bombs directly onto the carrier's flight decks and hangars. The resulting explosions tore through the vessels, igniting massive fires that rapidly spread, crippling the three carriers. These decisive strikes irrevocably shifted the battle's momentum, tilting the balance of power overwhelmingly toward the United States Navy. Despite the catastrophic losses already suffered, Japan was determined to respond forcefully and launched a fierce counterattack from its remaining operational carrier, the Hiryu. Pilots from Hiryu, demonstrating exceptional skill and bravery, managed to locate and attack the Yorktown, one of the critical American carriers. The Yorktown absorbed severe damage from direct hits, leading to fires and mechanical failures that rendered her temporarily inoperative. Though initially salvageable, the Yorktown was later sunk by a Japanese submarine, underscoring the dangerous and dynamic nature of naval warfare. Nonetheless, Hiryu's determined pilots, despite their bravery and accuracy, ultimately could not reverse the growing American advantage. Realizing that Hiryu remained a potent threat, the United States quickly organized a final, decisive strike. Dive bombers from the Enterprise located and targeted the Hiryu, pressing their assault relentlessly. Once again, American accuracy and timing proved decisive, and bombs struck the Hiryu's deck with pinpoint precision, igniting explosions and fires that engulfed the vessel. Damage control efforts aboard Hiryu proved futile against the flames and internal explosions, leading to her abandonment and subsequent sinking. With Hiryu's loss, Japan had lost all 4 fleet carriers committed to the operation, eliminating the core of its naval aviation power. Following the loss of Hiryu, the remaining Japanese naval forces recognized the futility of further aggression and reluctantly withdrew from the battlefield. The retreat signified not merely a tactical defeat, but represented a crippling strategic blow, permanently undermining Japan's capacity for offensive naval operations in the Pacific theater. The United States Navy, despite the significant losses of its own, had delivered a blow from which the Imperial Japanese Navy would never fully recover. This decisive clash, defined by moments of dramatic courage, catastrophic loss, and brilliant tactical maneuvers, illustrated the extraordinary volatility and strategic complexity inherent in naval warfare. The Japanese retreat and aftermath of the battle June 5 to 7, 1942. With the destruction of their carrier fleet, Japan's remaining naval forces faced a stark choice: withdraw or risk annihilation. Japanese battleships and cruisers, originally positioned to engage after carrier-based air dominance had been secured, found themselves dangerously vulnerable without air cover. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Admiral Yamamoto reluctantly ordered a general retreat of his surviving vessels back toward Japan. Despite Admiral Nimitz dispatching forces to pursue the retreating enemy, the Japanese ships managed to slip away, escaping American surface engagements. This retreat marked the definitive end of Japan's hopes for victory at Midway, sealing the outcome of the battle. Although the primary Japanese fleet withdrew, United States naval and air forces continued aggressive mop-up operations to maximize their advantage. American aircraft, now operating largely unopposed, targeted the stragglers of the retreating Japanese force, seeking to inflict additional damage and further weaken Japan's naval capability. United States submarines patrolled key areas, hoping to intercept and sink damaged or isolated Japanese warships attempting to return home. The heavy cruiser Mikuma and her sister ship Mogami came under relentless bombing attacks, resulting in the eventual sinking of Mikuma and severe damage to Mogami. Notably, no substantial Japanese counteroffensive emerged following these actions, underscoring the depth of the defeat inflicted by American forces. The scale of devastation suffered by Japan was profound, effectively crippling the Imperial Navy's operational capability. Japan lost all 4 of its aircraft carriers committed to the operation: Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, representing a catastrophic depletion of its naval aviation resources. Additionally, the Japanese lost 1 heavy cruiser and approximately 250 aircraft, with over 3,000 sailors and pilots killed in action. Comparatively, the United States sustained the loss of 1 carrier, the Yorktown, 1 destroyer, and about 150 aircraft, with approximately 300 American personnel killed. The enormous disparity in these losses dramatically shifted naval supremacy in favor of the United States, irreversibly altering the Pacific theater's strategic balance. The implications of the defeat extended far beyond immediate casualties and material losses, deeply reshaping Japanese naval doctrine and strategy. Before Midway, Admiral Yamamoto's doctrine emphasized achieving decisive naval engagements aimed at quickly incapacitating enemy fleets. Following this crushing setback, Japan could no longer rapidly replenish the pilots, experienced crews, or warships lost in the battle. Confronted by this stark new reality, Japanese leadership shifted their focus toward a defensive posture, relying increasingly on fortified island strongholds, shore-based air power, and entrenched defensive networks. Yamamoto's once dominant naval strategy had clearly failed, forcing Japan into a prolonged defensive struggle for survival. This strategic pivot fundamentally changed the nature of Pacific warfare, transitioning from decisive naval encounters to arduous battles for island territories. The American victory at Midway significantly boosted United States morale and demonstrated the critical importance of intelligence and tactical innovation in modern naval combat. Meanwhile, Japan, severely weakened and facing diminished industrial capabilities, was now compelled to wage a war of attrition, a scenario markedly different from its initial rapid offensive conquests. The shift to defensive strategy would define Japan's actions in the Pacific theater for the duration of World War II, marking Midway as the moment when Japan's aggressive expansion was irrevocably halted. Legacy and historical significance. The Battle of Midway represented the first significant victory for the United States against Imperial Japan following the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor. Prior to Midway, Japan had aggressively expanded throughout the Pacific, seemingly unstoppable and the American triumph at Midway halted this momentum abruptly, marking a clear shift in the trajectory of the Pacific War. It was not merely a tactical success, but a profound symbolic turning point, demonstrating that Japan could be defeated decisively, reshaping American morale and altering strategic thinking throughout the Allied nations. Central to the outcome at Midway was the decisive role played by United States intelligence gathering and code-breaking operations. American cryptologists at Station Hypo successfully intercepted and decoded crucial Japanese naval communications, directly enabling Admiral Nimitz to anticipate Japan's moves and set an effective ambush. Rather than reacting defensively, the United States Navy was able to proactively position its carriers for a devastating counterattack, dramatically changing the battle's outcome. The effectiveness of signals intelligence demonstrated at Midway permanently reshaped modern warfare doctrine, setting a clear precedent for intelligence-driven operations that would influence countless future engagements. The battle fundamentally transformed naval warfare itself, clearly demonstrating the superiority of aircraft carriers over battleships, previously considered the backbone of naval power. Before Midway, traditional doctrine emphasized heavily armored battleships engaging in direct ship-to-ship combat. However, the outcome of the battle made clear that air power launched from carriers offered unprecedented range, flexibility, and striking power. This shift spurred naval planners worldwide, particularly in the United States, to prioritize aircraft carrier production and development. The importance of coordinated air-sea operations, or combined arms tactics, became integral to naval planning, permanently altering how naval powers conceptualized fleet operations and combat tactics. Midway's strategic outcome directly influenced subsequent Allied campaigns throughout the Pacific. Empowered by this victory, United States forces initiated an aggressive island-hopping strategy, systematically seizing strategically vital islands to advance toward Japan. Victories at locations such as Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands were made possible by the momentum and operational confidence gained at Midway. Furthermore, the severe losses inflicted upon Japan reduced its ability to mount effective large-scale naval operations, limiting Japanese naval strategy primarily to defensive and localized engagements. Thus, Midway laid the groundwork for a sustained American offensive push, reshaping the broader campaign and altering the course of World War II in the Pacific. Japan's crushing defeat at Midway also signaled the beginning of its slow but inexorable retreat toward eventual surrender. With much of its seasoned pilot corps decimated and critical naval assets sunk, Japan could not replenish its losses effectively due to limited industrial and training capacities. Consequently, Japanese strategic thinking increasingly embraced defensive doctrines, fortifying island strongholds in anticipation of a prolonged conflict. This shift contributed significantly to the prolonged, grinding campaigns that would characterize much of the later war, underscoring how Midway's legacy profoundly influenced Japan's strategic outlook, the character of warfare in the Pacific, and the ultimate outcome of World War II. Conclusion: the Battle of Midway stands as a profound testament to the decisive roles intelligence, innovation, and tactical audacity play in modern warfare. By effectively leveraging their breakthrough code-breaking achievements, the United States Navy was able to neutralize the immense advantage of Japan's superior numbers, inflicting a crippling blow that irreversibly altered the trajectory of the Pacific War. The loss of 4 vital Japanese carriers marked not merely a tactical defeat, but signified a permanent shift from offensive dominance to defensive struggle, reshaping Japan's strategic approach and setting the stage for sustained American advances across the Pacific. Beyond its immediate military outcomes, Midway fundamentally transformed naval combat, highlighting the ascendancy of aircraft carriers over traditional battleships and underscoring the critical importance of air-sea coordination and intelligence-driven operations. The battle's enduring historical legacy echoes through subsequent Allied campaigns and contemporary military doctrine, illustrating vividly how decisive battles can influence the broader tides of history. Studied extensively for its strategic lessons, the Battle of Midway remains a powerful educational touchstone, illuminating the intricate dynamics of warfare and the extraordinary resilience and ingenuity exhibited by those who fought and prevailed. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Trackpads. If you enjoy learning more about military history and extraordinary individuals, be sure to visit trackpads.com for articles, podcasts, and more. This podcast is part of the Trackpads Military Newsletter, where we dive deep into the battles that shaped history. You can also check out my author page at militaryauthor.me for books, series updates, and more exclusive content. Until next time, keep exploring, stay inspired, and remember, the lessons of the past shape the warriors of the future.